Are you thinking about getting an e-bike? I'm an industry insider, and I'm going to tell you one of the most important factors many manufacturers don't want you to know about batteries. My name's JP, and I'm a co-founder of E-Lux Bikes. We were founded back in 2014, but you can just think of me as your e-bike buddy. There's a lot of information out there that can be misleading or confusing sometimes, so I just want to share some of my experiences and knowledge from the years in the business to help educate you and others about e-bikes. So let me ask you a question. Do you remember those hoverboards that came out a few years back? There were two-wheeled jobs that all the kids were riding around on everywhere, and there were two kinds of them. There was a really cheap one, I think it was like $250, and there was a more expensive one, about $450. And after a couple of years, they were really taking off in the marketplace, and all the kids had them. And then they started having these fires in people's garages and whatnot. And so word got around, and all the moms told the kids, hey, you cannot have one of those things in my house, so just forget it, kid. So you know what happened next, and and you probably know what I'm going to say next. The cheaper versions of those things had cheap batteries in them, and those cheap batteries are what caused the fires. And those fires killed that entire industry. Now, hold that thought, and let me ask you a question. Do you know what the most expensive part of an e-bike is? It's the battery. And did you know it's almost a third of the cost of the bike to build? And where do you think a manufacturer is going to cut cost? If he wants to cut cost, where do you think he's going to cut them? Probably the battery, because it's such a large cost. The only thing is, you've got to remember the battery is the most important part of the bike too. And there's three reasons why that is. Number one is safety, as you know from the hoverboard scandal. The ones that caught fire had cheap plastic casings around them, like the ones from the 50s and 60s. And those are super dangerous because lithium is very flammable when it's holding a charge, and anything metal that goes through that casing could short it and cause a fire that's hard to stop. So, you need the more expensive modern kind that have a metal case around the outside of them. The second thing is longevity. The cheaper battery cells have less longevity, and you don't want to maybe have to replace a battery after a year, and that would be if you could actually find one from that manufacturer that's making the cheap junk, or you could get them on the phone for that matter. The third reason is the miles per listed amp hour. So a 20 amp hour Samsung battery is gonna have much better range than a no-name Chinese brand cell, and so that's really important. So you might be asking yourself, how do you protect yourself? Well, let me tell you, there's a couple of ways. First, you need to recognize that most cheap e-bikes have cheap cells in them, and you need to be careful with those. Right now, there's a lot of overseas e-bike factories, and they're trying to reach the American consumer directly by opening warehouses in LA, starting a company here in the US, and bringing in super cheap bikes with super cheap, subpar batteries and parts. And sometimes those batteries are even counterfeit, Everyone's heard of the huge issues overseas with counterfeit goods, and this is something you have to be careful of. The strategy is the same that they used back in Europe a few years back. They want to flood the US market with super cheap stuff, subpar parts and batteries, while providing little support or after-sales service. Once their reputation is soiled, they just close the company and start a new one, with a different name, selling the same bikes. That's happened. I've seen it several times now. So buyer beware. Here's the thing you should remember with regards to batteries and battery quality. First, no matter what brand e-bike you get, make sure it has Samsung or Panasonic cells in it. LGs are good too. They finish a close second to the other two because they have slightly less range per amp hour as a safety feature, but they're really, really good quality. Second, you want to buy from a well-established e-bike company that has a really good reputation. And one way you can find out is just check their user comments. Look for the years that their users have had their bikes and how many miles they have put on them and what their experience has been with the customer service and things like that. You know how to figure that out. And that can make all the difference in your e-bike experience when it comes to safety and also longevity of the batteries you have, and also headaches trying to, replace a battery early in the ownership time that you've had the bike. So I hope that this is helpful, and if you want to learn more, you can check out the video on the screen now. And if this was helpful, we ask that you like, subscribe, and share it with somebody that could really use it. We really appreciate that. Thanks so much, and take care now.